at all the guns. Isn't it ridiculous? Look at this beautiful brass machine gun. That looks like a water-cooled gun.
What's a fluffy pom-pom thing for?
I'm sorry?
What's a fluffy pom-pom thing for?
To clean the gun, to clean the giant cannon.
Get down before you all the seeds go out.
You're right.
You can take a picture of that.
Every Memorial Day, 37,000 American flags are placed in Boston Common to commemorate those citizens of Massachusetts who have laid down their lives in the defense of freedom. The American Heritage Museum seeks to honor these local fallen heroes, as well as the 1.3 million Americans who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Hello, I'm Rob Collins, Executive Director of the Collins Foundation's American Heritage Museum. I'm proud to welcome you and to showcase the amazing collection built by Jacques Littlefield. We're grateful to all of our donors who've made this museum possible. The theme of the American Heritage Museum is found in the opening line of the Declaration of Independence, when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary. Necessary to do what? To fight for freedom in order to enjoy the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Here you'll explore America's conflicts, beginning with the Revolutionary War to today. You'll discover and interact with our heritage through the history, the national effort developing new technologies of warfare, and the human impact of America's fight to preserve the freedom we all hold dear. One of our direct ancestors in the Collins family was John Cowdery of Boston. He was a Revolutionary War citizen soldier who fought at Bunker Hill in the Battle of White Plains. As you tour the museum, take a moment to reflect on your own family backgrounds, your relatives past and present who have answered the call, ready and able to defend our freedoms. So to them, and to all veterans, men and women that are here today, we say thank you for your service.
In times of war, America's history is filled with stories of men and women of extraordinary courage. Many of these citizen soldiers have taken up arms, using the weapons and technology so carefully restored and preserved here at the American Heritage Museum. Their stories begin right here in Massachusetts, not 15 miles from where you are seated. Sturdy Bostonians, men like Sam Adams and John Hancock, would no longer stand for the taxing of tea, stamps, sugar, and other goods by British rulers to pay for their growing empire. On April 19th, 1775, a war of rebellion would break out in Concord, Massachusetts, and a patriot militia would stun the redcoats, driving them back to Boston. Within a year, this American Revolution would give birth to the Declaration of Independence. It is a document that gives purpose to this and all future armed conflicts involving Americans, a document dedicated to fighting for freedom when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary. These patriots would shock the world by turning back assaults of British troops at the Battle of Bunker Hill until their powder ran out. But the truth was, they were outmanned and outgunned from the start by a superior, highly trained British force. Even the stalwart commander, George Washington, was defeated in battle after battle. Yet gradually, through his cunning and fortitude, and with help from allies, the tide of the war would turn. But most importantly, it was the ragtag patriot citizen soldiers rallying to the cause of freedom that would achieve an astonishing victory over Britain's military, the mightiest in the world. The weapons that these dedicated men and women used to defend their freedom played an ever-increasing role in the outcomes of battles fought. Concord's patriot militiamen carried a fowling piece as compared to the more deadly Brown Bess musket, standard issue for a British redcoat. But cannons forged in Pennsylvania and fired by the citizen soldiers like Boston's Henry Burbeck of the 3rd Continental Artillery will help to shift the war in America's favor at the Battle of Monmouth. And finally, with the Battle of Yorktown, the war that would culminate in victory for Washington and his army and the formation of a new independent America. This much was certain. Even though patriots often fought the war with hunting rifles while the British were armed the best of weaponry, nothing could be found to be as powerful as the human spirit with a cause worth fighting for. Tragically, 80 years after the end of the Revolutionary War, our nation, conceived in liberty, experiences an even more terrible struggle, a civil war that will tear at America from within. The scourge of slavery in a nation where all men were said to be created equal will pit Americans against one another. Families will be ripped apart in what will be the nation's bloodiest war. The face of warfare changes again with new weapons and tactics on both sides. Telegraph lines speed communications. Railroads transport troops and supplies. Long-range artillery proves deadly. Men dig into trenches to defend a city. The Gatling gun that fires hundreds of rounds a minute is an ominous preview of future battles. Boston's Henry Adams, great-grandson of founding father John Adams, imagines even greater trials to come. Before many centuries more, science will be the master of man. Someday it shall have the existence of mankind in its power, and the human race shall commit suicide by blowing up the world. While our union is preserved, 600,000 lives are lost. Nearly half the total military deaths in all of America's wars combined. By the dawn of a new century, battles fought, lives lost, had been chiefly on American soil. And these wars had causes worth fighting for. Yet soon, across an ocean where many of our ancestors began their quest for a new life, the world will explode. Our resolve will be tested, and America will never be the same again.
Please exit to the World War I theater to your right. As you enter, you can use...
Very creepy.
Yeah, so some will have to go on the top, some go
Go
down this trench.
All right, file in. Come on, move it along. You're not in Fall River anymore. File into the trench.
Say, Corporal, our French mates look pretty grim.
Oh, you look pretty grim too. You've been at the fun as long as these guys have been here.
Well, we could all use a good meal soon. I'm getting tired of eating canned rations.
Head down, soldier, if you want to keep it. Enemy snipers with a blow up on the launch.
Can't see from there.
What's in there?
That won't be the only thing killing you if you don't move. Now let's go, you two. Let's go.
More pretend trenches. This is probably a decent spot. This is probably a decent spot right here, girls. If you want to stand up there, that's fine.
And when we shipped out of Boston, I could never imagine the carnage and destruction that I would be witness to. The lads who suffer wounds at the front, many of whom barely cling to life, are brought here to my clearing station. Sometimes scores of them, other times too numerous to count. We work to save lives and to give comfort to those beyond saving. These boys, some barely able to shave, are fighting the Great War. Not great in wonder, but great in its terrible toll. It's like we are fighting all of Europe, 32 nations, the Germans, Turks, Austria-Hungarians, Bulgarians, on and on. How it started, I can't explain. Nationalism, imperialism. Whatever the reason, it's a travesty. One thing is certain. These new weapons have carved wide swaths of destruction and left tens of millions dead. France has lost an entire generation of young men due to the war. There's no glory in this. No lasting triumph. For me, there's nothing but a firm resolve to carry on, to do what we can to bring comfort and endure. Would we all have been better to stay back in America and not get involved? Some say yes. But our American ships were sunk by U-boats. We've been attacked, and now our allies need us more than ever. Here at the front, men are dug into trenches stretching some 440 miles from the North Sea to Switzerland. Many are waterlogged home, often reeking of death, from which men of valor regularly storm out to cross fields known as no man's land, only to be cut down by deadly enemy machine guns. And with nightfall, the terror increases. Millions of artillery shells rain down on each side. Enough! Now that you yanks are here, we look to you to provide one final push. Your French allies are exhausted. One last great effort from you can drive German forces back to their borders, and we pray, bring an end to this terrible destruction. May fortune smile on you tonight and beyond. And God bless you, one and all.
At dawn, we're going over the top in a coordinated attack with our French allies to drive the Germans out of zombie hell. We're gonna make history. This will be the first American-led attack of this war.
You men, take cover! Get back on those barrels. Corporal, send up the scouts to cut the barbed wire for the morning attack.
Yes, sir. The rest of you cover up. You left it now. All hell's breaking loose. Get used to it, boys. It's every night.
All right, men. Check your weapons. Make ready. Let's go!
Machine gun nest. We need to take them out, sir.
Right, Corporal. We'll have on my signal.
It's one of Patton's tanks. Now what, baby? That's a way to kill those high-hearteds.
Into the trench now. Get us before they get you.
The fighting was relentless. The stalemate would only be broken by sending our boys into a fusillade of lead that, for many of them, meant certain death. Even now, I hear our ambulances, the lorries, the horse-drawn carts, all bringing a new wave of casualties to us. Some will arrive with horrific wounds, mangled limbs, others choking on poison gas. Still others will arrive concussed and shattered in mind as well as body. The new and so-called efficient weapons of war, tanks, machine guns, and poison gas, and aeroplanes that now bring death from overhead, all will change change the face of the battlefield forever. Some estimates will show over 40 million military and civilian casualties in this great war. 200,000 will die in the trenches. Many of you will return home from this war. But 100 miles north of San Miguel, in the verdant fields of the Meuse, France, almost 31,000 of you will find your final resting place. Solemn evidence to future generations of what is necessary to defend freedom.
All right, men. It's time to go home. Let's move it out. The trench is no home for any living soul.
Technology and the human factor in war for many who fought it.
It's a very light tank.
Americans, MacArthur and Truman, and Britain's stalwart Churchill, as well as de Gaulle of France, Italy's Mussolini, and Russia's Stalin. Each will become a known leader, but none will have a greater impact on the world to come than a young, embittered Austrian corporal who survived years of shelling and gas attacks in the trenches. Adolf Hitler. War clouds will soon, once again, be on the horizon.
The tank in front of you, as with just about everything, well, actually everything here, it is real. They're not reproductions. So even though it's 102 going on 103, it does run. You know, and it's an American made, but it's to the Renault design, because we didn't have tank designs in the First World War.
World War One.
Yeah, it's a World War I tank.
This is World War
Now the next exhibit here is in between the wars.
Please enter war clouds now.
Come on in, folks.
War clouds will begin in 6 months.
Right. You're funny.
June 1919. With the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, the war to end all wars is over. The treaty forced Germany to disarm their army, give up 25,000 square miles of territory, and pay millions in reparations. Many Germans are upset about their treatment by the Allied powers, and support grows for a far-right political party known as the National Socialist German Workers' Party. This Nazi party is led by a charismatic Austrian veteran of the Great War named Adolf Hitler. In 1933, Hitler is able to take power in Germany through cunning political tricks and brute force. He quickly and secretly begins military rearmament as a first step toward complete domination of Europe. In 1936, Nazi Germany forms an alliance with Italy's fascist dictator, Benito Mussolini. The Nazis also begin to put in place plans for what eventually becomes known as the final solution, the horrific annihilation of Europe's Jewish population. Half a world away, the Empire of Japan is in a full-scale war with China after the Japanese army's brutal killings of millions in Nanking in 1937. Japan is viewed by many nations as a rogue state. War clouds are gathering across the world. Within a year of seizing power, Hitler's factories begin mass production of new machines that Germany claims are simply tractors. Among the so-called tractors is the Panzer I. In reality, the Panzer I is a light tank, crewed by a driver and a commander gunner. Hitler has learned the harsh lessons of trench warfare. He imagines that this use of technology will spearhead a new mobile fighting force. Rearmament spurs industrial production in Germany.
Employment rebounds to an all-time high. Life for many Germans is good again, but not for all. Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, November 9th, 1938. The windows of Jewish-owned shops, buildings, and synagogues are smashed by the SA paramilitary and German civilians. Soon, entire Jewish families, including children, are rounded up, deported, or worse, sent to concentration camps. European nations take no measures to stop Hitler. Unchecked, Germany builds its military might on land, sea, and in the air. Many in Germany adore their Führer. During speeches, Hitler whips his audience into a frenzy. His twisted comments will affect a whole generation of young Germans. He plays to huge crowds, parading in his open car. The Mercedes-Benz G4 is a six-wheeled heavy personnel car, a vehicle ominous in its size and importance. Mercedes-Benz builds more than 50 of these imposing vehicles for German high command. In 1938, the confident Nazis annex Austria. Britain's Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain flies to Munich and obtains what he feels is a guarantee of no further aggression by Germany. He returns to England proclaiming it is peace for our time. But Hitler's promises are hollow. The Nazis invade Czechoslovakia in 1939. Less than a year later, Germany launches a surprise invasion of Poland, with the Soviet army attacking from the east. Stuka dive bombers hammer the city of Warsaw, and German panzer tank units cause chaos among the Polish army. The failed strategy of appeasement is now over. England and France finally declare war on Germany. Still, America remains on the sidelines. Most U.S. citizens are against any involvement in another war in Europe. Hitler's forces march on. Germany invades the Low Countries, Luxembourg, Belgium, and the Netherlands. His next target is France. Hitler's strategy of blitzkrieg, lightning war, overwhelms French forces. A British expeditionary force joins the fight, but the Brits quickly learn that their Vickers Mark 6 light tanks are no match for the German panzer mobility and firepower. After the Battle of France, 300,000 British troops are successfully evacuated through the Channel port at Dunkirk. Hitler next launches air attacks on Britain. If he can destroy the nation's air defenses, he may then launch an invasion. Thus begins the Battle of Britain. Technology changes the war with a newly developed radar network, which allows Britain's air defenses to spot German planes approaching and get Royal Air Force fighter planes into the air before they can be caught on the ground. RAF pilots and their Spitfires and Hurricanes battled the German Luftwaffe in a war of attrition. When Hitler turns his attention to bombing raids on key British cities, known as the Blitz, much of London is engulfed in flames, but Britain still refuses to surrender. U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt realizes that America cannot remain isolated any longer. He signs into law the Lend-Lease Bill, pledging America's commitment to arm and support the Allies in Europe. Roosevelt hails American industry as the arsenal of democracy. America can no longer hide behind a shield of neutrality. Roosevelt knows this. Hitler knows this. And thousands of miles across the Pacific, so do military commanders bent on a new order in Asia, the Imperial Japanese Empire. Roosevelt seizes Japanese assets and orders a crushing oil embargo. The Japanese Navy wants to seize oil resources in Asia and the South Pacific by knocking out any major resistance from Western forces, especially America's Pacific Fleet. Then, on the morning of December 7th, 1941,
we interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin.
now, an ill-prepared America will be thrust into a second world war.
everything here is original, like he said. This is a German. It's a GM truck, though. This is a GM truck chassis. They reworked into those things. This is one of the few things that's not 100%.
Please exit work lounge now.
It's still pretty
The
awesome.
screen will be closing shortly.
That's an original engine, though, I guess. I bet you'll be able to find pretty quickly what my favorite thing here is if you walk around. Come here. Nope. It's just one or the other. That's a good question, actually. Look at this amazing diorama. How they did this. Looks like water. Well, last year when I was here, they were still finishing some of this stuff. This wasn't here. This really cool diorama wasn't here yet. These would have been all over. These were all over Slovakia when I was growing up. There were a bunch of war memorials where they would just leave one of these tanks on a big slab of concrete. You know, the Russians are very proud of having defeated the Germans on the sort of towards the end of the war there. This is a T-34. It's a Russian tank. See how it's ugly and all rough looking on the outside? It's not a pretty looking tank, and it's not as sophisticated as the German tanks, but the Russians could make like 20 of these in the time that the Germans could make one fancy Tiger or Panther. That's part of the reason why they won the war. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work, especially in a war. I've climbed on top of one of these back in Slovakia. Because they were all over the place. It wasn't all that special. It was cool, but it wasn't. Here, it's really exotic and amazing to have a T-34. In Eastern Europe, they're just all over the place. Yeah, no, there really were a bunch of them all over the place. There were war memorials. Most of the time, they're really any small components would have been taken or stolen or broken out. Oh, nice. That is cool. I know, it's so tight, right? Look how small that is. I just have it climbing in there, and then you're getting shot at, and cannons are shooting giant rounds at you. That's a German little... This is actually, I believe this would have a Beetle engine, or something similar to it. No, actually, you know what? This might be...
I wish I could get a bed that's shaped like one of the...
Yeah.
Without anyone having to bother me, and I can just lock myself inside and be like...
No, it's V8. It's a Horsch V8. That's not what I was thinking of. But it's still a fairly small vehicle. Sure, this one's disassembled, so you can see a Sherman tank with the turret off. Oh, and look, remember a Schwimm wagon? Look, so it's those are Beetles. Those are literally Beetles underneath in terms of the mechanicals and the engines. Yeah, people are jerks. What can you do? Maybe it's a Coca-Cola can from World War II. I'm kidding. I know. They didn't have cans like that back then. Just kidding. Look at these engines. Oh my god, it's so cool. They're radial engines, you know, like on an aircraft. But some tanks had radial engines. Look at this thing. Man, that's cool. Look at the coupling, the output shaft. This is some sort of a clutch, I'm assuming. Okay, don't touch Elliot, okay? And please be careful, you're gonna smash your head if you stand up right now. Look at that. Look, cut it open so you can see inside the turret. Look at Ellie. See those? Those are the rounds. See what looks like a giant bullet? That's what you would load inside here. The breech opens up. You load it inside there, and then the gunner would actually use a sighting system of some sort to aim and shoot at an enemy tank or truck or, in some cases, aircraft, whatever. Look how thick that is. See that? And yet, still, there are other tanks that could puncture this very easily.
Ellie.
All right, yeah, please don't climb. Come on, let's go walk around. Huh? Look at those extra tracks.
And I can see above the bunker.
Look at this.
I feel the most safe in it because so
You see?
Ooh.
The propeller, because it's a Schwimmwagen, so it's a military Beetle designed to be. Yes, we'll get food when we go outside. Okay? We can't get food inside the museum facility. You hungry? Yes, we'll definitely grab a hot dog or something. What do you think?
Oh my god, those.
Can we stay together? Okay. Let's. You can. Why don't you lead the way, Ellie? Come on. Let's follow Amelia. I've been here before. Let's let her. You're gonna know exactly what my favorite thing here is when you see it. I mean, the Panther's really cool. Don't get me wrong. The Panther tank right here.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the coolest ones. But it's not it. It's not it. No, it's not the Panther. There's something else that's really cool. That's my favorite thing here, and you'll know it when you see it. Look at the size of this tank, Ellie. Yeah, what plane? Holy God, look at this is original.
This is the conning tower of something new.
Holy cow. That's amazing. You know what the conning tower is, right? The part of the U-boat that sticks out of the water? That's amazing. Look at that. I know. Look at the size of that thing.
What about the plane? Is the plane your favorite?
Yeah, what's the plane?
Okay, let me see. Yeah, this is probably my favorite thing then.
That giant inverted Mercedes engine. Look at. See the.
I've never seen one in real life.
I know. This is my first one I've ever been close enough to. That actually. This is the first one I saw in person last year.
Can I touch it?
Okay. Look, they made it look like Eric Hartman's with his little heart on there. Actually, somebody else probably had. I'm sure other guys use hearts. Probably the dorm, the security system on the door. Don't get too close. Look at this thing. The engine in this aircraft